Well, hello guys, thank you very much for your company. Here's another little video for you. I've made quite a few up to date and I think we're approaching 100 now. Anyway, you appear to like them, but the most popular of all, looking through the statistics, is homemade workshop tools. Well, I've shown you all I've made, so I can't show you anything else, but I'll show you a few little bits and bobs that I have got in the workshop, which you may or may not be familiar with, so apologies if I'm teaching grandma to suck eggs here, so bear with me. Perhaps some of the youngsters may not be familiar with some of the things. Anyway, I've cleaned my old vise up here. Poor old thing, it's taken the punishment. It's really been through the mill over the years, but I've used it for welding, and there's a few chips in the jaws. Anyway, today I've given it a bit of an oil up, and it's nice that the handles slide now and it does up easily. Okay, right, why am I mentioning vices? Various tools with the vices. Here we have a clamp for holding various pieces of rod. There's an Allen key each side, and it can be tightened up, and there's sizes on there. I don't know if it shows it up. Yes, it does. Look, if I get the light right. That's a commercially made one. It's sprung load. It's quite nice. It's got a little lip so you can drop it in to the vise and just drop it in like so, and it doesn't drop through. And then you can put in various pieces of rod or what have you. I have made them. Here's one I've made with threads in, Whitworth threads in this case. This allows me, you can see the principle, it's just simply squeezed up pivot points here. It allows me to hold bolts if I'm working on the heads or studding without damaging the threads in the vise. It's far better than just soft jaws. If you haven't got the size you want, as a temporary measure, you can use a piece of wood. And here I've drilled a 1/2 inch hole, slightly over 1/2 inch, in a piece of hardwood and put a slit through it. Well, you can see the principle, it's dead easy. And it means if I want to work on this copper pipe, that fits in there, as you can see. And there's enough give within the wood. Just pan up a bit within the wood and go in a bit further. That'll do. That's in focus, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Okay, pipe fittings. Nowadays there's push fittings, there's compression fittings, there's solderless solder, but in the old days you used to use a tool that would sway the pipe, so you actually made the olive in the pipe. And the tools that we used were these. Plumbers will recognise these. As you wind the handle, a taper moves out, and gradually as the taper moves out, it pushes these balls, which are captive, on the inside of the tube and puts you an olive shape in the tube. When this is retracted, then all the balls can go back in. And they come in at various sizes. Here's a little smaller one, just has one ball, and that's just simply dropped into the copper tube and turned. If I get my hands out the way, you can see it puts what would be an olive shape into the tube, and then that comes out. It's at this point you realise you forgot to put the nut on first, or you put it on back to front. So you've got to cut it off and start again. Anyway, simple tools that you may or may not have seen. As I say, plumbers would be quite used to these things, but and it needn't be copper, of course. It can be alley, light gauge steel, and it's a permanent thing. This is why I personally like it. Okay, let's move on to a few others. Okay, while still on the pipe theme, here's a big piece of pipe, well, small section, but 3 inches, 3/16 thick. A little tool I picked up many years ago is for drilling, tapping and putting fittings into such a pipe. But you can do it in situ. You don't have to physically cut the pipe. This is a lovely little tool. That's one piece. That sits on the pipe like so. And you have a chain. Chain goes round the pipe to fit whatever size pipe you're doing, of course. That's the bit that tightens it up. That's it. And we position it where we want, and then we tighten it up. Right, that's positioned the tool on our pipe. And then we have numerous various sizes of drill. And the drill incorporates the thread. And it incorporates a 1/2 inch shank at the opposite end. And there's all different sizes. And so the drill and tap is fed in the top. A ratchet goes on top of the square. Then this is swung over and the T-piece tightened down. I won't actually drill through this piece of pipe because I want this piece of pipe, but you can see the action. We just carry on, we drill through, and when we got through the actual pipe we keep going and we put the thread in. This is quite an unusual tool. I don't know how old it is, but quite ingenious, I think. Anyway, I'm sure you can see the principle. How handy is that? If I do that up, it should go back in the box. Should have been a bigger box. That's it. Okay, while still on the pipe theme, I'll give you an amusing incident. You might put a smile on your face. An acquaintance of mine who contracted for the gas board, and long before this type of thing was available, this isn't gas pipe, but you take my meaning. He wanted to put some fittings into a pipe, and it meant cutting the pipe. And anyway, he dug a hole in the road, shallow hole, and he was working on this. And he was slowly hacksawing through the pipe, and a hard hat turned up and stuck his head over the top, sort of thing, and said, "What is he doing?" And he said, "Well, he's putting some fittings in," and he contracted for the gas board. And the guy in the hard hat said something about where he turned the gas off, and he said, "I haven't." And the guy went physically white and took 3 steps back. He says, "What?" He says, "I haven't." He says, "You'll blow us all up." He says, "You'll blow us up." And this acquaintance of mine says, "Don't be a bloody fool." He says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "I've been doing this for years." He says, "One spark from your hacksaw," he says, "and you'll take up the neighbourhood." And my mate said, "You've never used a hacksaw in your life, mate." He says, "Do you know how fast your elbow's got to go to make a spark with a hacksaw?" As at this point that the hard hat walked off, mumbling something about the authorities. Well, this acquaintance of mine, he carried on, and it transpired about 3/4 of an hour later, this chap in the hard hat turned up with 3 or 4 more hard hats, a gas board and a copper. Ah dear, bits of paper and clipboard. Anyway, it was at this point that my buddy, who was tamping down the hard mac, he'd finished. He said, "If you want to inspect the safety or my workmanship," he says, "you're very welcome, but you dig the bloody hole yourself." And I said to, George was his name, I said, "George, is there any possibility or likelihood of any danger doing this? He says, no. He says, first of all, it's low pressure, less than 1 atmosphere. He says, you put your hand over the end, he says, and hold that back. Or a lump of mud, he said, handful of mud. He says, you've always seen me, he says, use a hacksaw, he says, and you've never seen me use anything smaller than 32 teeth to the inch. And you've never seen me, he says, use a hacksaw without smearing the blade with Vaseline or some Mixol or something like that. He says, it's not just for making ease of cutting. He says, the chances of making a spark, he says, well, you couldn't if you wanted to. And that always brings a smile. It's worthwhile tagging on to these old timers. They know the job backwards, blindfold, and you can pick up a lot of tips from them. Anyway, that always brings a smile and gets me a pint usually. Ha ha! Another interesting tool you may or may not have come across is a banding tool. This tool is used for putting steel bands around posts, signs on motorways, round lamp posts, round telegraph poles and the such like. Let's see if I can show this. I've had this several years. Very handy. I believe they still commercially make them. Let's put that down for a minute. It uses stainless steel banding material, which is why I'm interested in it, because it's very handy for boat work, lagging silencers and the like. And it uses these little clips. Okay, here's a little clip. I haven't got many of these, so I won't actually use this one, but I'll do a quick demo if you like. You take a piece of, assuming I want to strap that up, say it's a big bundle of something. We do a bend in the wire, and I always get this wrong. It goes that way through the saddle, so that that bend is underneath. And then it goes around whatever you want and goes through the saddle again. Let's see if I can get it through there. Yeah, here we go. Push through. That's the idea. Pulled up like so. Now the tool, this is quite ingenious. That clips in there, like so. That's it, and then that's held. And then the handle is turned, and this draws back and tightens up and tightens up and tightens up. And if I keep going, I just squash the wood. But the whole tool is turned over, like so, to that way. So we bent it back, and I'm a little bit out of shot here, sorry. Whoops. And then 2 little lugs are bent over to stop the strap from unwinding, and this lever is pulled, which cuts the cable. So let's see if I can zoom into that a bit further. Further still. Further still. Whee! Stop. Now what happens is this is pushed over, and these little lugs are tapped over the band. I won't tap over it now because I'm getting short of these little tabs or whatever they're called, and I'm making myself now. You can buy them. This system is still available. Anyway, that's quite an interesting little tool, and I've found that invaluable over the years, and it saves on when you can't find a big enough pan back. When you can't find a big enough Jubilee clip. We know you can join 2 or 3 of these together, but there's no limit to the size of this. Another handy little tool. Another simple tool is this over centre fast acting clamp. Can be used on drilling machines, on milling machines. There was a boat building firm that had loads of these round a moulding, around the hull moulding, and they were putting the side decks and cabin onto wet resin, and they wanted a clamping system that they could clamp up very quickly before the resin started to go off. And I believe they're using multiple hydraulic little clamps now, but they use these because they were just so quick. And once set up by the adjustment here, ideal for repetitive work. Here we have a horizontal version of the same thing. I use that on the milling machine quite a lot. Very handy little tools. Over centre clamping devices are also used in this type of vise. There should be a knob on this end that's got lost somewhere, but it's very quick to operate, and it works on the same principle. The lever goes over, so I can do this without showing. There we go, and that's completely locked in position. That action of going over just moves the jaw that little bit. You should be able to see that wherever it might be. It's right that way, and it's really got it. This is also ideal for production systems. While we're talking about milling machines, drilling machines, put them there. Oh, just dropped that on my toe, nearly. Okay, small jacks, adjustable jacks. This is for round stock in the milling machine, lathes, what have you. Here's a little booty. It's made by a friend of mine who's a tool maker, and it's just beautifully made, and it also has a jack, and you just put a little Tommy bar in there to adjust the height, and the item can't turn as it's in a keyway. That's absolutely a little darling. I use that all the time. It's a pleasure to use. Well, finally, on the subject of vices, this is a little vice I made when I was at schooling, about 14 or 15. It's got to be 59 years old now. It's got one little dimple where a drill has gone in there, and I don't believe that was me. But it could have been, I suppose. Anyway, that's enough for this video, as it's gone on a little bit. I've got a few more which I'll show if you like, provided I don't get too many thumbs down. I always get at least one, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm not the only poor old chap on YouTube. Ha ha! Not to worry. Thanks for watching.